Hey guys, new tutorial, short tutorial, well 20 minutes or so. It will be about shape creation and what is that and what is my terminology for that? What do I want to explain here? You know, am I just going to go off in random tangents? Yes, because I don't really think art is a really strict thing that we have to discuss, and it relates to a lot of different things. And shape creation is something that I've been noticing that a lot of people that I'm mentoring at the moment, they seem to have this they get stuck. Like they get stuck on this. How do we come in and create a shape? What am I doing? And how do they ask me, how do you come up with your shapes? How do you do it? And it does take a lot of practice, but there's also this point of I'm trying to not do the thing that I want to do. And so let me explain that, right? That is like me coming in and going like this, and okay, this is kind of like, I feel like I want to do this, right? And there we go. It's boring. It's there, but if I came in and let's say we change it up and I'm going to do something crazy, and this is shape creation. This is me using my left hand, right? I'll try and do the same type of pattern, right? And that is totally different. I mean, I couldn't have predicted that. My coordination with the left hand is off. And the reason why I do that is because I've come in and realized that we are creatures of habit and we are creatures of control. We want to control everything in our lives. We think it's going to make things better, and it just doesn't. But we have this part of us where it's the flow, right? The flow where we've learnt what looks good. But the hand, I find the hand sense of control tends to ruin everything. It's good when you want to refine and polish, but it's not good when you want to come up with really cool shapes. And this is what this tutorial is about: shape creation. And what do we want to sit and explain here? Well, it's like tricking the mind to do things that you essentially are. I don't know what you're tricking, but you're fooling yourself into creating new shapes, and that's where you grow, right? Like the freedom and the expression of almost like coming in and really not caring. That's where it is. I'm sure you could do it with your right hand. I've done it, and I mean, you come in. Let's experiment with the right, and let's make sense. And I'm trying to beat my control, which is an odd thing to think about. You're beating your control, right? There's a sense of control where if you come in, and let's say you come in and I want to move this and move it here, then here, then here. You're doing the thing of control, but you saw this one here. This is a much more cooler shape, and so we can redynamesh that, and we can see what we can get from it. And you don't have to use your left hand. That's just a technique that I don't really use too much on the computer, but I use it on with drawing, and that is something. So I want to create a silhouette that I don't think I don't want to know how to create the silhouette in a weird way, but I want to know where I stop, and that's where my eyes will tell me to stop, because I'm visually looking at it. I'm like, okay, that's good, and then I can come in with the right hand and tune it. But that's just one technique. The other technique is a mindset thing, and the mindset is to really not to sit down and really predict what you want to do. You've practiced all the other, so many hours of your life doing certain shapes and coming in and exploring things that you've got so much practice, which is great, but then it gets stale and you want to try and break that. And the practice will come in when you're refining, and then when you're using your eye to go, okay, that actually looks pretty balanced there. And I mean, we could go with the left hand again for the sake of going with the left hand, just to see what we can pull from this. And let's say we probably got to use, let's get the move tool out, because we want to extend it and try and rotate as Gumby as that feels. And so it's always tempting to say we can use the breaks in the mesh to explore do some exploration. And this is, if you guys get stuck, right? If you're like, oh man, I have no idea what I want to do here. This is a great technique just to break that sense of control, because we are all creatures of like, we want to control things. And there's that Taoism, like if you go with the flow of life, that's when you start living, and that's when things start happening. Because you get that sense of control. That's when you're trying to control things that they're not in your circumstances, and art offers us that. We have that, and I think you can get pretty bad with trying to control things, and the obsessiveness to try and control at the very start. This is, I never said there's no need to have that, but at the very start, where you want to come up with creative shapes, this is where you want to let go. Just let go, right? This is, and it's harder said than done. It really is, and that's something that I've really tried to talk to my students about, and they do get to that point where they're like, oh, they come in and just move things around and kind of be free, and they're not so committed, and because you're at the very start. So you got your primary and secondary, right? You should save that for the tertiary stuff where you need to have a sense of control, but you wanna break out of your little thing. And I mean, you could take this these shape inspirations and use them in, do a zero mesher on this and take that shape and then refine it and have fun with it in sub D, and because that would be the next process of it. But there is another one called the curve pinch, which is pretty handy, which I do use to create a type of inspiration. You can just Control D to clear that, and so we've got something cool here. And I mean, as soon as you start, we can start just trying to realize something. I mean, this could turn into anything. I might try and I mean, that kind of looks like a cool collar around the neck. Let's we could go with like maybe a head type of design. But see, I'm refining with the right now, and so I'm not too fond of that at the moment. So I'm trying to, which my PC is not made for the left, but I'm trying for the sake of doing this. But I don't have the. All right, let's try this. So I can come in, use the move tool, and I am zoomed out of the design. So we need a, and this is like, you're looking at it and going, what the hell is that? Me too, trust me. I'm thinking the same thing. And you're like, Mike, you do this for your clients? I'm like, not really. The clients always want something that's like, hey, can you do a robot thing? And they're never too explorative. I'll do this at like little mini things that maybe I'm stuck on a foot, that the shape language, I'm just like bored of that shape language. So, and just, I mean, you could do anything, right? And then this is totally broken mesh. Redynamesh, give it a little smooth. See what inspires you here. There's a lot of little cool mistakes that have come up, which it's pretty cool to see that what can we refine from it in that sense. I mean, this could be a pretty cool collar, and I didn't really want to make a head, but you can come in and start realizing things. And this is where you have to break your sense of control. If you want to come up with cool ideas and just be explorative, just let go for the first maybe try the first 20 minutes and see how you go. And the sense of freedom that you get is really great, because this could even be a creature. I'm going to fix that mesh, done. And so if you think about, then you can come in. Problem is now is, okay, how do you take all this and realize it? And that's when, that's where the practice comes in and makes sense of all this stuff. I've been asked that question. I'm like, well, I've made all these details. Now what, right? And that's where you got to get good. I think a lot of people could probably create a cool shape if they, well, maybe not because it takes practice, and I'm just maybe taking it for granted here. But remember the refinement stage here, that you could come in and just like polish all that and just get rid of all that cool detail, or you could be rather more explorative than just going over it, and you could still just explore things a bit more. And anything can come anything. It's mush until you make it into something, right? This is where the 3D stuff, this is a cool detail. You could keep that there as a detail, like so. And this is good for working back and forth between stuff. You would so you need to bring this over to well, you might not. You could do it to a total creature workflow and detail it. But if you were to do a hard surface workflow, you would have to not detail it as much. Well, maybe not. It depends if you're going to use subdivision modeling. But you could try and this could be a sense of clothing now. Ornamental design. And it's just one of those things. It's really seeing what you want. I'm not going to make a show winning piece here, but this is to show a sense of freedom that you can have with really trying to trick yourself. And I do have, I got rid of it. We'll go back to this, but let's start on this one and we'll finish this tutorial. So there's a sense of freedom with really coming in and not predicting what your stroke will be, if that makes sense. And then you can come in and use the sense of control, have that, and just, refine, and then eventually make a story. Think of something what you want to think about as a story piece, and start to grow it from there. And that's how you start to cement in what you've done, and let the piece kind of inspire you. It's some people when they write songs, they actually don't even know what the hell they're going to sing about until they start singing. And this is the similar thing when you sit down and you work and you do stuff, and that's where you get the flow state, that beautiful flow state. And so just be free, guys. And I hope you guys get something out of this tutorial. And you can see how you can just, you can be like, I want to pull that out, pull this out, redynamesh, and you do create some pretty cool things. Like, it's the I would say the mastery of trying to get this into a hard surface type of design. And I mean, you could run a Z remesher on this and play with it in sub D. You wouldn't want to do it too high, but it's great that you're using a Z remesher to inspire you for shapes. So let's have a look, and we'll try it. We'll try and make a decent shape here. Maybe let's see. You don't want to be cranking the subdivisions too high, but you want something to be cool, right? You want to find some cool shape language. Because the more subdivisions you have, the more mesh you have to contend with, and that's not a fun endeavor to do that. So, but we can't be too detailed with the mesh here, so we'll crank that down, and we'll leave it there. So let's try a Z remesher on this, and this is all a part of shape creation and seeing what you can make, because using certain tools to inspire you, this is how art works. So that's great. Like, you can see how if I chuck this into a modeling software, that you could go in and use all this as inspiration, and you could find edge loops around here, and then make some cool mech details. I mean, you could run zero mesh on it again to clean up the mesh, and then we have a little bit more of a better mesh. And this would be way more easy to go in and play with. And before you want to start playing with the shape, you could come in and refine it a bit and use some polish and try and make sense of this hard surface shape. You'd want to start figuring out where you want to put your edge loops to. Maybe run another zero mesher. It might actually start to create those around where you want. You might want to lower the zero mesher a bit. Again, you don't want too much with the sub D stuff. This would probably even be better to play within sub D environment and to use some sort of inspiration for shape creation and coming up with cool things. And that's the holy grail of hard surface, is hard surface with really good flow shapes and not having these really rigid forms. And oh yeah, that's just the rigidity of making certain forms just really square and things like that. It's never an appealing thing to look at for hard surface designs. And this can even apply to creatures and anything else. It's a really cool thing that you can come up with. And just remember, guys, break the control that you do have when working. Really go against that urge to control everything. Your control is like this really bad habit. And so, I mean, we could come in and even play with this shape. And I don't know, we could try and play with it. Move it around. I mean, this is... You can find stuff in it eventually. Because even this offers you something different. So say if we come in and we turn down the levels of subdivision, we can still explore in a really weird way. This is just... I'm trying to get you guys to break your sense of control. And this is like... You're doing everything by the book. You're doing everything wrong, right? And so if we come in and let's have a divide of that, we can start to see things form and grow, and it can be really cool. And at some point, you could start to add some edges, and you're really just hunting things down, right? And it does take practice, because your brain is trying to recognize what looks appealing at the end of the day. It's trying to see like, hey, that looks appealing, let me try this out. And so I'm trying to rationalize the certain shapes that I've come up with off the cuff here, and really see, you know, how you want to go about finalizing them in a way, and what are they really? And I don't know. I'm not going to admit that I know. And so it's a funny way of working, because we all want to think we know what we want to do, but hey, if you guys don't know what you want to do, that's totally fine. And just explore it. Explore the possibilities of working and things like that. And then you could, you could always turn this into a Dynamesh, and we don't want to freeze that. Hopefully this will do it just fine. But you could come in, and then we could even just experiment and do a zero mesher on this again, just for the sake of it, and see what happens. And really, you're working back and forth, and you're exercising your design language, and you're trying to find stuff that you really like, and they express yourself freely, which is hard. This is where this is really a difficult thing, and people tend to control things too much, and the freedom just goes out the window. And guys, if you really just be free when you sit down and you start your work, you'll get these cool shapes. You will. But the mastery that comes is the practice, and it's you knowing what to look out for and when to stop and when to finish. Like, you can actually polish that cool freedom shape away and just make it really boring. So you don't really want to do that either, because you could have this really cool form and that, and you come in and just refine it and refine it and refine it, and it's like, oh, well, I've just put a big sense of control back into it, and then I've ruined that form, that free form that I came up with at the very start. It's all gone because I've put my control back into it, and that's that level you have to balance. You got to balance all that stuff. So, all right, guys, I'm going to leave the tutorial here. I hope you guys get something out of it, and like and subscribe, and just leave any comments if you guys want anything in particular from me, and I'll see if I can do it. All right, guys, I'll hope you have a good one, and take care, guys.